In other news now, SARS and the public protector have been locked in a dispute over former President Jacob Zuma's tax records. In response, Zuma has said in a series of tweets that he has no issue with the public protector accessing his tax records. For more on this, we joined in the studio by Opa Sekhabi, speaking on behalf of the public protector. Opa, good morning. Thank you very much for coming in.
Good morning, sir.
Now, legally, what's next now? What should happen here next from a public protector's perspective?
Well, the court should hear the arguments from both sides so that it can, clarify this ambiguity. From the public protector's perspective, Section 7, subsection 4A of the Public Protector Act is very clear that the public protector has the power to request any person to provide her with any document that has a bearing on an investigation before her. And in the case at hand, that document or that information is former President Zuma's tax files. And SARS is not willing to accede to the public protector's request on the grounds that...
Is it a question of being unwilling to assist, or are their hands tied because of the law? Because SARS can't give out somebody's tax records without the taxpayer's approval.
Well, that is the dispute, and we are hoping that the court will clarify that for once and for all, because the public protector is an investigative body, and for her to get to the bottom of whatever it is that she's investigating, she ought to be favored with all the information. In this case, it is the tax information.
When is the court going to hear the matter?
Well, that is yet to be decided. Yesterday, there was a mutual agreement between the parties to say they must continue to engage the Deputy Judge President, Mr. Aubrey Ledwaba, so that they can find a common ground on when the matter can be heard.
And that's in the North Gauteng High Court?
That is correct.
Okay, so we're still awaiting that. Now, can you just remind us briefly, what is this case at hand here? What is a public protector investigating? What particular case is this relating to?
Well, in 2017, the then leader of the opposition in Parliament, Mr. Mkhwebane, approached the public protector with a complaint lodged in terms of the Executive Members Ethics Act, in which he was alleging that the former president may have breached the Executive Code of Ethics in relation to the revelations that we saw coming out in a book by journalist Jack Paul, titled The President's Keepers. In that particular book, Mr. Paul alleged, among other things, that President Zuma was getting paid a monthly salary of up to R1 million a month earlier on in his term of office as president, and that he may have not declared that. And so the matter came to the public protector. And
he was being paid outside of government structures.
Yes.
He was being paid by security companies. Is that the case?
Yes, by a private security company based in Durban. So that is where the matter is, and the public protector has been engaging SARS ever since. This is the second time we subpoena SARS for the same.
Why are Mr. Zuma's tax records so germane to the investigation? Can't the public protector establish that the salary was coming in via Mr. Zuma's bank accounts? Well,
I think it's the issue of pay as you go. I mean, what do they call it? Pay as you earn.
Yes, yes, PAYE.
Yes, it has been determined to be crucial, that information crucial to the investigation, for the public protector to access that information from SARS over and above information that you might access elsewhere, like the declaration that members of the executive are supposed to do.
But Opa, you and I know that pay as you earn only works in so far as you declare the income.
Yes.
If I don't declare the income to SARS, they don't know about the income.
Exactly.
And unless, of course, they then look at my lifestyle, they think, hey, Mr. Moyane is living it up, where is he getting the money from? Then they start investigating.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to understand, why would why would the public protector be insisting on getting the tax records? Because you could establish that the money was paid to Mr. Zuma via his bank records.
Yes, and it's also important for her to establish if the former president, was declaring that income to the collector of revenue.
Okay, so the next steps now is awaiting. The two parties, you said, that's yourselves and SARS, are engaging the court, the North Gauteng High Court, to establish what will be the date when this will be heard. And the arguments will then be made again in that case. And the public protector believes Mr. Zuma's tax records are important in her investigation, in this case.
Definitely.
Okay. Now, Mr. Zuma has tweeted to say, according to what we've seen, he has no issue with the public protector accessing his records. What are you going to do with that now? Because it looks like he's giving you approval that you can go ahead.
Yeah.
Are you, as Public Protector's Office, going to use these tweets in your favor to say, listen, the man himself now has said publicly to the world, please give them my records?
I think that's a conversation that will have to take place between the Public Protector and SARS. But we did notice those tweets from the former president, but tweets are a bit informal. I have heard elsewhere that SARS would prefer a formal letter written to it by a taxpayer, and then they will take the matter
Okay,
forward.
now the man that you're investigating as a Public Protector has tweeted informal to say, listen, I'm fine, you can tell. Are you going to follow up with him and say, okay, Mr. Zuma, can you write formally now so that we just solve this matter without going to court?
Well, that is a possibility, but I wouldn't want to steam ahead of the investigation team. I think they will handle the matter with SARS. But what is important is that the court case must still go ahead, because we need clarity in the law. There's a deadlock between the Public Protector Act and the Tax Administration Act. And so it's not clear which one trumps the other, which is why we want
so the Public Protector will pursue the court thing, wishes to continue, so that there can be clarity for all other entities that might find themselves in the future in a similar situation with SARS.
Definitely.
So that's another intent here by the Public Protector, besides accessing Mr. Zuma's records.
Correct.
Okay, Opa, thank you very much. That's Opa Sekhalwe speaking on behalf of the Public Protector's Office. Now,